What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something absolutely insane. We are going to count down the top 20 deadliest hotels in the entire world. I'm talking about places with stories so crazy, so terrifying you won't believe people actually choose to stay there. These aren't your typical 5-star resorts with a nice pool and free breakfast. No, these are places with dark, twisted histories, real-life tragedies, and reports of things that will keep you up all night. We spent hundreds of hours researching this, and what we found is genuinely shocking, so buckle up. Because this is going to be a wild ride into the most dangerous places you could ever book a room. We are literally going to travel the globe from the United States to Asia and all the way to Europe to uncover the secrets behind these infamous locations. For every single one of these 20 hotels, we're going to dive deep into why it's considered so deadly. We're talking real-life events, mysterious disappearances, unsolved crimes, and chilling paranormal encounters reported by countless guests and staff members. This isn't just a list of spooky stories. We're breaking down the actual history and the documented incidents that have given these hotels their terrifying reputations. I promise you by the end of this video, you'll be checking your hotel reviews a little more carefully. This is one of the biggest videos we have ever made, and every single hotel on this list is more terrifying than the last. We're going to explore tales of vengeful spirits, tragic accidents, and even locations that were built on top of prisons and burial grounds. It's a journey into the heart of darkness, where luxury and horror collide in the most unexpected ways. You are not going to want to miss a single second of this countdown. Every story is crazier than the one before it, and we have some truly mind-blowing details to share with you. So grab your popcorn, turn off the lights if you dare, and get ready for a trip you will never forget. And before we jump into our very first deadly hotel, if you love insane countdowns and crazy stories like this, do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button right now. We are trying to hit our next big subscriber milestone, and every single one of you helps us get there. Also, make sure you obliterate that like button, turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, and comment down below which of these hotels you would never stay in. Seriously, your support means the world and allows us to make bigger and crazier videos for you guys. All right, enough talk. Let's get into the first deadly hotel on our list. Kicking off our list at number 20 is a hotel so infamous, it's literally been nicknamed the Suicide. Welcome to the Hotel Cecil in Los Angeles, California. From the outside, it might look like just another old building in downtown LA, but its history is one of the darkest and most disturbing you will ever hear. Since it opened in the 1920s, this place has been a magnet for tragedy, attracting some of America's most notorious serial killers like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who actually lived here during his killing spree. The sheer volume of suicides, murders, and unexplained deaths within these walls is absolutely staggering, with dozens of documented cases over the decades. The history of the Cecil is a relentless parade of human misery. We're talking about people checking in and never checking out, with reports of at least a dozen suicides taking place here. One woman tragically jumped from her 9th floor window, landing on and killing a pedestrian below in a horrifying double fatality. Another guest was found brutally murdered in her room, a case that remains unsolved to this day. It's like the building itself has a dark energy that preys on vulnerable people. The hotel's reputation became so grim that it actually tried to rebrand part of the building as Stay on Main to escape its cursed past. But the stories are just too powerful to ignore. But the most famous and chilling case associated with the Hotel Cecil is the mysterious death of Elisa Lam in 2013. This is a story that went viral all over the world and still baffles investigators. The 21-year-old Canadian student was a guest at the hotel when she suddenly vanished without a trace. The police were stumped, and the only clue they had was a bizarre piece of elevator surveillance footage. The video showed Elisa acting erratically, hiding in the corner of the elevator, pressing all the buttons and seemingly talking or gesturing to someone or something that wasn't there. It's 4 minutes of pure, unsettling mystery that gives you goosebumps every time you watch it. The story gets even darker. After weeks of searching, with hotel guests complaining about low water pressure and discolored, foul-tasting water, a maintenance worker made a gruesome discovery. Elisa Lam's body was found floating inside one of the sealed water tanks on the hotel's roof. How she got up there how she bypassed locked doors and alarms, and how she managed to get inside a massive water cistern and close the heavy lid from the inside are questions that have never been answered. The official ruling was accidental drowning, but the bizarre circumstances and the creepy elevator video have led to endless theories about what really happened at the deadly Hotel Cecil. Next up, we are flying all the way to Taipei, Taiwan to check into the Grand Hyatt. This place looks like the definition of luxury, a massive, beautiful hotel that seems like the perfect getaway spot. But if you look past the polished marble floors and fancy decorations, you'll uncover a terrifying secret. The land this five-star hotel was built on has an incredibly dark past. During World War II, this exact location was a political prison camp where countless prisoners were brutally tortured and executed. The sheer amount of suffering and death that occurred on this ground is almost unimaginable, and many believe that their tormented spirits never left. The hotel developers were apparently warned about the land's horrifying history, but they decided to build on it anyway. Almost immediately after opening, both guests and staff began reporting strange and unsettling experiences. People would hear disembodied voices echoing down the hallways at night, see shadowy figures darting in the corners of their eyes, and feel an overwhelming sense of dread and sadness in certain parts of the hotel. The paranormal activity became so intense and so widely reported that the hotel had to take some seriously drastic measures. You don't just call in an exorcist for fun, you do it when things are getting completely out of control. To combat the restless spirits, the hotel management brought in feng shui experts and spiritual masters. They made some very specific and unusual changes to the hotel's design. If you visit today, you'll notice two gigantic Chinese calligraphy scrolls or talismans hanging in the lobby. These weren't put there just for decoration. They were specifically placed there to ward off the vengeful ghosts of the prison camp. The hotel also has wind chimes and other spiritual symbols strategically placed throughout the building, all in a desperate attempt to create a barrier between the world of the living and the tormented spirits that are rumored to still walk the grounds. Even with all these spiritual safeguards in place, the stories of hauntings at the Grand Hyatt continue to this day. Guests still report their beds shaking violently in the middle of the night, their electronics turning on and off by themselves, and the chilling sensation of being watched by an unseen presence. Some have even claimed to see full-bodied apparitions of ghostly figures in old-fashioned clothing, wandering the halls before vanishing into thin air. It's a chilling reminder that no matter how much luxury you build on top of it, you can never truly erase a place's tragic and violent past. This hotel is a prime example of a beautiful facade hiding a truly terrifying secret. All right, for our next deadly destination, we're heading up to Canada, to what looks like a literal fairy tale castle. I mean, look at this thing. The Fairmont B Springs Hotel is absolutely massive, and it's surrounded by these insane, epic mountains. It looks like a place you'd stay in for $1 million challenge video, a place where kings and queens would hang out. But here's the crazy part. Instead of royalty, this place is packed with permanent residents who checked out a long time ago but never actually left. It's like they're paying rent in scares instead of cash. And trust me, the stories coming out of this place are more intense than trying to survive on a deserted island for 50 days. You might think you're just booking a luxury vacation, but you could be booking a one-on-one meeting with a ghost. One of the most famous ghosts here is the doomed bride. The story goes that on her wedding day in the 1920s, she was walking down this beautiful grand marble staircase. Imagine the scene, flowers everywhere, music playing, everyone's happy. But then, disaster strikes. Her dress catches fire from one of the candles lining the stairs. She panics, trips, and falls to her death. Today, guests and staff report seeing a ghostly figure in a wedding dress floating up and down that same staircase. Some even say they've seen her dancing alone in the ballroom, waiting for a first dance that she never got to have. That is absolutely tragic, and honestly super creepy. It's one thing to see a ghost, but a ghost bride on fire? No thanks. But the bride isn't the only ghost punching the clock here. There's also Sam the bellman. Sam was a dedicated employee who worked at the hotel for decades, and he loved his job so much that he literally never retired. He passed away in 1975, but get this, he apparently still shows up for his shift. People staying at the hotel have reported being assisted by an elderly bellman in an old-fashioned uniform who helps them with their bags or unlocks their room door when they're locked out, but when they try to tip him or talk to him, he vanishes into thin air. He's been described as a helpful and friendly spirit, but imagine seeing your bellman walk straight through a solid wall. I would lose my mind. And if that's not enough to give you nightmares for a week, there's the story of room 873. This room is so haunted that the hotel literally sealed it off. They bricked up the doorway and blended it into the hallway wall. The legend says that an entire family was murdered in that room, and their spirits were so active and terrifying that the hotel had no choice but to remove the room from existence. Guests in the rooms next door would report hearing blood-curdling screams and seeing bloody handprints appearing on their walls. Even though the room is gone, people walking down that hallway still report feeling cold spots and hearing whispers. They literally had to delete a room from the hotel because it was too haunted. That is next level insane. Okay, now we're heading to Colorado, to the hotel that is so terrifying it literally inspired one of the scariest horror movies of all time. This is the Stanley Hotel, and if it looks familiar, it's because this is the place that gave Stephen King the idea for The Shining. And let me tell you, the real-life stories from this place are just as crazy as the movie, maybe even crazier because they actually happened. The hotel itself is beautiful, sitting in the mountains, looking all peaceful and historic. But don't let that fool you. This place is a hotbed of paranormal activity, and staying here is like willingly signing up for the world's most extreme ghost hunting challenge. You're not just getting a room key, you're getting a front row seat to a non-stop ghost festival. So how did this place inspire The Shining? Well, Stephen King and his wife stayed here in 1974, right at the end of the season, and they were the only guests in the entire massive hotel. Can you imagine that? Having this whole creepy, empty building to yourselves. During his stay, he had a terrifying nightmare about his son being chased through the hotel's long, empty corridors by a fire hose. He woke up, went out on the balcony to smoke, and by the time he was done, he had the entire plot for the book figured out. The hotel's isolated, eerie atmosphere was the perfect fuel for his imagination, and the paranormal activity that people have reported for years just adds another layer of pure terror to the whole experience. The most famous ghosts here aren't evil twins, but they're still pretty freaky. The original owners, Freeland and Flora Stanley, are said to still be running the place from beyond the grave. Guests often hear piano music playing in the concert hall, even when no one is there, and they believe it's Flora practicing. Freeland, or FO as he was known, is often seen in the lobby and the billiard room keeping an eye on his hotel. People have even reported seeing his apparition standing behind them in the reflection of the billiard room window. It's like the ultimate micromanaging boss. He's not even going to let death stop him from making sure the hotel is running smoothly. That is some serious dedication to your job. But the real paranormal hotspot is room 217, the exact room where Stephen King stayed. Back in 1911, a head chambermaid named Elizabeth Wilson was caught in a gas lantern explosion in that room. She survived, but it seems her spirit decided to stick around and keep things tidy. Guests who stay in room 217 report some really weird stuff. Their clothes get unpacked and put away for them, items move on their own, and lights turn on and off. And apparently, she's a bit old-fashioned because she really doesn't like it when unmarried couples stay in the room together. People have reported feeling a cold force get between them in bed. It's like having a ghostly chaperone making sure you behave. This hotel isn't just haunted, it's actively messing with you. For our next hotel, we're flying all the way to the Philippines, to a place with one of the most brutal and tragic backstories I have ever heard. This is the Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City, and guys, this place looks like it was pulled straight out of a horror movie set. It's abandoned, crumbling, and sitting on top of a hill overlooking the city. You can literally feel the creepy vibes just by looking at a picture of it. Before it was a hotel, This building had a dark, violent past that has soaked into the very walls, and the stories of what happened here are absolutely chilling. I would not spend a night here for $1 million. Okay, maybe for 10 million, but I would need my entire crew with me. So, what makes this place so unbelievably cursed? Well, before it was the Diplomat Hotel, this building was a seminary and a monastery. But during World War II, it became a living nightmare. Japanese soldiers invaded the building, committing horrific acts and murdering many of the priests, nuns, and refugees who were hiding there. There are stories of beheadings and other unspeakable brutalities. After the war, it was eventually converted into the Diplomat Hotel. But the trauma and death that occurred there never left. The building is said to be haunted by the countless souls who died within its walls, their screams and suffering echoing through the empty halls for eternity. Visitors who are brave enough to explore the abandoned hotel have reported some of the most intense paranormal experiences imaginable. We're talking full-on, terrifying encounters. People frequently hear agonizing screams, crying, and desperate whispers coming from the empty rooms. They report seeing headless apparitions of priests and nuns wandering the corridors, a horrifying reminder of the executions that took place there. Doors slam shut on their own, objects are thrown by unseen forces, and many people report feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness, dread, and pure evil the moment they step onto the property. This isn't just a place with a few cold spots. It's a place where you can feel the pain of the past. Even though the hotel has been abandoned for decades, the ghosts are apparently still very active. One of the most frequently sighted spirits is a white lady figure, believed to be the ghost of a nun. She is often seen walking the hallways or staring out of the broken windows. Local paranormal investigators and thrill seekers who visit the site often bring offerings, hoping to appease the restless spirits, but the activity never seems to stop. The Diplomat Hotel is more than just a ruined building. It's a massive open-air tomb, a monument to a dark history, and a place where the dead have never, ever found peace. Staying here isn't just a bad idea, it's like asking to be haunted for the rest of your life. All right, coming in at number 6 on our list of hotels you should probably never, ever visit, we have the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas. And trust me, this place is absolutely insane. It looks like a beautiful fancy hotel from the outside, like something you'd see in a movie, but the story behind it is literally the stuff of nightmares. This place wasn't just a hotel, it was also a fake cancer hospital run by a total fraud named Norman Baker. He promised people a miracle cure, but instead he subjected them to horrific, deadly treatments. We're talking about injecting people with a mixture of spring water, carbolic acid, and other random stuff. It was a total scam, and hundreds of people died here in the most agonizing ways imaginable. So this guy, Norman Baker, was a complete lunatic. He had zero medical training, but he convinced desperate people that he could cure their cancer. He called his place the Baker Hospital and charged a fortune for his fake cures. People flocked there hoping for a miracle, but what they found was a house of horrors. The treatments were not only useless, they were incredibly painful and often fatal. He would literally experiment on his patients, and the stories from that time are just chilling. Imagine being trapped in a hospital where the doctor is actively trying to scam you while you're at your most vulnerable. It's one of the most evil things I've ever heard of, and it all happened within the walls of this hotel. It gets even crazier. They say the spirits of Baker's victims never left. Guests and staff at the Crescent Hotel have reported seeing full-body apparitions, hearing blood-curdling screams and feeling ghostly touches. One of the most famous ghosts is a nurse named Theodora, who is often seen pushing a gurney down the hallway, right where the old hospital morgue used to be. People have literally seen this ghostly figure appear and then vanish into thin air. There are also reports of seeing the ghost of Dr. Baker himself, still wandering the halls in his purple suit. It's like the pain and suffering from that time is permanently etched into the building itself, replaying over and over again for anyone brave or foolish enough to stay the night. And if that wasn't enough to make you want to sleep in your car, the hotel has fully embraced its haunted reputation. They offer ghost tours where they take you to the most active spots, including the old morgue, which is still in the basement. I'm not even kidding. You can go stand in the exact spot where they kept the bodies. People on these tours have captured insane EVPs, seen objects move on their own, and even been physically touched by unseen forces. This isn't just a hotel with a few spooky stories, it's a place with a dark, verifiable history of death and deception. So, unless you want to spend your vacation sharing a room with a ghostly patient from a fake cancer hospital, I would 100% avoid the Crescent Hotel. Next up, we're flying all the way to India to check out the Seavoy Hotel in Mussoorie. This place is straight out of a classic mystery novel, and I mean that literally. The story that makes this hotel so terrifying is a real-life, unsolved murder that happened over 100 years ago. In 1911, a spiritualist named Lady Garnet Orme checked into the hotel. A few days later, she was found dead in her room, and it wasn't from natural causes. She had been poisoned with prussic acid, which is a super deadly poison. The craziest part? The case was never, ever solved. Nobody knows who did it or why. It's a complete mystery that has haunted this hotel for over a century. Think about that for a second. An unsolved murder in a fancy old hotel. It's the perfect setup for a ghost story, and that's exactly what happened. They say the ghost of Lady Garnet Orme never checked out. She's been seen wandering the halls and corridors of the Savoy, forever searching for her killer. Guests have reported hearing phantom whispers and footsteps in empty hallways, and some have even seen a ghostly woman in period clothing who vanishes when they get too close. The hotel staff are so used to it that they just consider her part of the building. It's absolutely wild to think that you could be walking to your room and literally bump into the ghost of a murder victim from 1911. But the story gets even more insane. The doctor who performed the autopsy on Lady Orme was also found dead a few months later, poisoned in the exact same way. Coincidence? I think not. This just adds another layer of mystery and terror to the whole situation. Was the doctor silenced by the real killer, or was it something even more sinister? This double poisoning case became so famous that it actually inspired one of the most famous mystery writers of all time, Agatha Christie. She based her first novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, on the events that happened right here at the Savoy. So you're not just staying in a haunted hotel, you're staying inside the inspiration for a literary classic about murder. So let's recap. You have a luxury hotel where a woman was mysteriously poisoned, her murder was never solved. Then her doctor dies the same way. Now her ghost reportedly roams the halls, maybe looking for justice, or maybe just looking for her next victim. I'm just kidding, probably. But seriously, reports of paranormal activity are off the charts. People talk about doors opening and closing on their own, objects flying across rooms, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Staying at the Savoy isn't just a getaway, it's like stepping into a real-life ghost story where you are the main character. And honestly, that's a challenge I'm not sure I'd want to accept. All right, for our 8th deadly destination, we're heading over to Northern Ireland to a literal castle on the coast. This is the Balogh Castle Hotel, and it looks like something straight out of a fantasy movie. But don't let the beautiful scenery fool you, because this castle has a history that is incredibly dark and tragic. The most famous ghost here is Lady Isabella Shaw, the wife of the original owner, Lord James Shaw, from back in the 1600s. The story goes that after she gave birth to a son, her husband was disappointed he didn't have another heir, so he locked her in a room at the top of the castle tower. It's absolutely brutal to even think about. So poor Lady Isabella was a prisoner in her own home, locked away in this tiny tower room, completely isolated. Can you imagine the horror and despair she must have felt? The legend says that while she was trying to escape to find her child, she either fell, was pushed, or jumped to her death from the tower window. It's a heartbreaking story, and people believe her spirit is still trapped inside the castle, forever searching for the baby that was taken from her. Her ghost is said to be the most active spirit in the castle, and she's not always a friendly one. People have reported feeling an icy chill in the air right before seeing her ghostly figure appear. Guests who have stayed at Balogh Castle have had some absolutely terrifying experiences. They report hearing a mysterious knocking on their doors in the middle of the night, only to open it and find no one there. Then they hear the faint sound of a woman crying or a child whimpering coming from down the hall. Lady Isabella's ghost is often seen as a misty figure gliding through the corridors, and some have even felt her ghostly presence in their rooms, standing at the foot of their bed. The hotel has even dedicated a special room to her in the tower, known as the Ghost Room. But they don't let guests sleep in it because the activity is just too intense. And Lady Isabella isn't the only ghost you might run into here. This castle is basically a paranormal party. There are reports of at least 3 or 4 other regular ghosts, including a mysterious spirit known as Madame Nixon, who lived in the hotel in the 19th century and is heard walking around in her silk dress. People also talk about the ghost of a soldier from the 1600s, and even phantom children who run through the halls laughing and playing. It's like a convention for the undead. So if you're thinking of booking a room at Ballygally Castle, just be prepared to have a few extra uninvited roommates who have been checked in for over 400 years. Alright, next up we're flying to London, England to check into one of the most legendary haunted hotels on the entire planet. This isn't just some old building, this is the Langam Hotel, and guys, it's insane. Opened way back in 1865, this place was one of Europe's first ever grand hotels, meaning it was the peak of luxury. We're talking royalty, famous authors and celebrities all staying here. But behind all that fancy stuff, there's a dark side, especially in one specific room that people are absolutely terrified to stay in. If you think you're brave, just wait until you hear about what goes on inside room 333. It's so intense that some people won't even walk past it in the hallway. The stories surrounding this place are absolutely wild. The most famous ghost is supposedly a Victorian-era doctor who unalived his wife and then himself while on their honeymoon in, you guessed it, room 333. Can you even imagine that? You're on your honeymoon, the happiest time of your life, and it ends in a horrific tragedy that echoes through time. Guests who have dared to stay in that room report seeing his ghost just wandering around in his old-timey Victorian clothes. Some people say the temperature in the room drops like crazy, and they feel this overwhelming sense of sadness and dread. It's not just a little spooky, it's a full-on paranormal encounter that has made grown men run screaming from the room. But wait, there's literally more! The doctor isn't the only ghost hanging around the Langham. There's also the ghost of a German prince who jumped out of a 4th-floor window right before World War I started. He's seen pacing the hallways, still in his military uniform, like he's forever trapped in that moment of despair. People have reported seeing his ghostly figure walk straight through walls and doors. And if that wasn't enough, there's even an apparition of Emperor Napoleon III, who lived at the hotel while he was in exile. He apparently haunts the basement, which is just a whole other level of creepy. It's like a never-ending ghost party, and you're the only living guest invited. So, what makes room 333 the absolute epicenter of all this paranormal chaos? Well, in 1973, a BBC journalist named James Alexander Gordon decided to stay in the room to see if the legends were true. He woke up in the middle of the night to see a glowing ball of light that slowly took the shape of a man in Victorian evening wear. The figure stared at him with empty eye sockets before it started floating towards him. He was so terrified he fled the room instantly. This wasn't some random person. This was a credible journalist who went on record with his story. The Langham is so famous for its ghosts that even the English national cricket team has blamed paranormal activity for their poor performance after staying there. Okay, we've seen haunted hotels, but what about a haunted ocean liner that is a hotel? For our next spot, we're heading to Long Beach, California to board the Queen Mary, and I'm telling you, this thing is on another level of terrifying. This massive ship sailed the Atlantic from 1936 to 1967, and it saw everything. It was a luxury liner for the rich and famous, and then during World War II, it was converted into a troop ship nicknamed the Grey Ghost. It carried thousands of soldiers, and with that much intense history packed into one vessel, you just know things got crazy. Today, it's permanently docked and serves as a hotel, and it's considered one of the most haunted places in America. Let's talk about the ghosts, because there are literally hundreds of them reported here. One of the most active areas is the engine room. Way down in the ship's guts, a young crewman named John Pedder was crushed to death by a watertight door during a drill in 1966. To this day, people who tour the engine room report seeing his ghost, still wearing his blue overalls, walking around near door 13, the very door that killed him. People hear unexplained noises, see shadowy figures darting between the pipes, and even feel ghostly hands touching their backs. Imagine being deep inside a metal ship far below the water and feeling a cold hand on your shoulder. Nope, I'm out. And it gets even creepier when you go to the ship's first-class swimming pool. This place is a hot spot for paranormal activity, and the stories are insane. There are reports of seeing the spirits of women in 1930s-style bathing suits walking around the pool deck, their laughter echoing in the empty space. The most famous ghost here is a little girl named Jackie, who supposedly drowned in the second-class pool. People hear her giggling, splashing, and even calling out for her mummy. There are wet footprints that appear and disappear on the dry floor, and some people have even claimed to have a full conversation with her ghost before she vanishes into thin air. A ghost child on a ghost ship. But the most haunted room in the entire hotel is Stateroom B340. The activity here is so intense, so constant, and so terrifying that for years the hotel refused to even rent it out to guests. They literally just sealed it off. People who stayed there reported everything from the faucets turning on by themselves, the lights flickering on and off, and bedsheets being violently ripped off them while they slept. The story goes that a man was murdered in this room, and his angry spirit has never left. In 2018, the hotel finally reopened the room for brave guests, complete with a Ouija board and tarot cards. Would you spend $1 million to stay in this room for a night? Let me know in the comments. For our next stop, we are flying all the way to Sydney, Australia, to a place called The Rocks, which is the oldest part of the city. And right there, you'll find the Russell Hotel. This place doesn't look like a giant, spooky castle, but don't let that fool you. This building has a crazy history. It was built right on top of what used to be a rowdy hospital and then a sailor's hostel, so you can just imagine the kind of chaos that went down here. The area was known for crime, disease, and all-around tough living. That history has seeped into the very walls of the hotel, and today it's known as one of the most haunted spots in all of Australia. The number one ghost that everyone talks about at the Russell Hotel is a sailor. The legend says that back when this was a hostel, a sailor was murdered by a lady of the night, and his spirit never checked out. He is most often seen in room 8, just standing at the foot of the bed, staring down at the guests while they sleep. Can you even process that? Waking up in the middle of the night to see a ghostly figure watching you. People have reported hearing his heavy footsteps pacing back and forth on the creaky floorboards when no one is there. He doesn't seem to want to hurt anyone, but he definitely wants you to know he's there, which is somehow even scarier. But the sailor isn't the only ghost you might run into. Numerous guests and staff members have reported seeing the ghost of a woman in old-fashioned clothing just silently gliding down the hallways. Nobody knows who she is or what her story is, which makes it even more mysterious. People have also reported hearing children laughing and playing in the corridors, only to open their door and find the hallway completely empty. The hotel is filled with these unexplained sounds, whispers, footsteps, and disembodied voices that seem to come from nowhere. It's a constant barrage of paranormal activity that keeps guests on edge their entire stay. What's really crazy is how normal the hotel staff is about all of this. They don't even try to hide the fact that the place is haunted. They actually embrace it. They'll tell you all the stories and even point out the most active spots for ghost sightings. Some staff members have reported seeing glassware move on its own and doors opening and closing by themselves. The hotel's reputation is so well known that paranormal investigators from all over the world come here to try and capture evidence. So if you're ever in Sydney and want a hotel experience you will literally never forget, the Russell Hotel is waiting for you, and so is the sailor in room 8. All right, next up on our list of places you should probably never book a room, we're heading back to Los Angeles, but this time it's all about the glitz, the glam, and the ghosts of Hollywood's golden age. I'm talking about the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. This place is an absolute legend. It opened in 1927 and hosted the very first Academy Awards ceremony 2 years later. Imagine the history. Charlie Chaplin, Clark Gable, Marilyn Monroe, they all walked these halls. But here's the crazy part. Some people say these stars never actually left. For $100, would you spend a night here? What about for $1,000? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments below. It's one thing to visit a haunted place, but sleeping where literal ghosts of Hollywood icons are said to roam, that's a whole different level of terrifying. This hotel is basically a paranormal VIP lounge, and the most famous ghost on the guest list is none other than Marilyn Monroe. She lived here for 2 years at the start of her career, and her spirit is said to be one of the most active in the entire building. People have seen her reflection appearing in a full-length mirror that was originally in her favorite suite, Suite 1200. It's been moved to the lobby now, so anyone can try to catch a glimpse. Can you imagine just checking in, looking in the mirror to fix your hair, and bam, you see Marilyn Monroe staring back at you? I would literally jump out of my skin. That's not a fun surprise, that's a heart attack waiting to happen. The staff even report feeling cold spots and smelling her distinct perfume near that mirror. But Marilyn isn't the only A-lister sticking around after hours. We've also got Montgomery Clift, a famous actor from the 50s. He stayed in room 928 for 3 months while filming From Here to Eternity, and apparently he's still practicing his lines. Guests in that room have reported hearing someone pacing back and forth, the sound of a trumpet being played, and even feeling a phantom hand on their shoulder. It's so intense that some people have literally fled the room in the middle of the night. It's like you pay all this money for a luxury hotel experience and you get a free, terrifying roommate who won't shut up. I'd be demanding a refund so fast your head would spin. This is not the kind of celebrity encounter anyone is hoping for on their vacation, and it doesn't stop there. There are tons of other strange occurrences all over the hotel. People report seeing a little girl in a blue dress named Caroline searching for her mother near the Blossom Ballroom. There are also reports of a man in a tuxedo seen near the piano, phantom phone calls to the hotel operator from empty rooms, and orbs of light floating down the hallways captured on camera. It's like a non-stop ghost party. The swimming pool area is another hotspot, with people reporting cold spots and disembodied voices, sometimes even seeing wet footprints appear out of nowhere. The Roosevelt isn't just a hotel, it's a living museum of Hollywood history, and it seems the exhibits like to walk around and scare the living daylights out of the guests. For our next hotel, we're flying all the way to Beijing, China, to a place with a story so messed up, it sounds like it was ripped straight out of a horror movie. This is the Boomer Inn. And let me tell you, the legend behind this place is absolutely insane. You might think you're just booking a regular room, but you could be checking into a real-life nightmare. The story goes that the hotel is haunted by the vengeful spirit of a former chef. This isn't your friendly ghost who just makes noises. This ghost is looking for revenge, and according to the legend, he gets it. This is one of those places where the backstory is so dark, I'm shocked people still stay there. It's a massive challenge, and you know how I feel about challenges. So here's the story, and buckle up because it's wild. A chef who worked at the inn's restaurant was in love with a waitress, but his feelings weren't returned. In a fit of rage and jealousy, he ended up poisoning her and then taking his own life in one of the inn's rooms. But the story gets even crazier. Before he died, he supposedly cursed the inn, vowing to return and take revenge on anyone who wronged him or dared to stay in his room. Now his spirit is said to haunt the entire building, but especially the kitchen and the room where it all went down. I wouldn't eat a single thing from that kitchen, not even for $1 million. Forget the ghost. I'd be worried about phantom poison. Guests and staff have reported some seriously terrifying things. They hear chilling screams coming from empty rooms, objects flying off shelves in the kitchen, and the ghostly figure of a man in a chef's uniform appearing and disappearing in the hallways. The most disturbing reports are from guests who claim to have been attacked in their sleep, feeling a choking sensation or being held down by an unseen force. Some have even woken up with unexplained scratches. I am not kidding. Imagine waking up gasping for air with claw marks on your arm. I would be on the first flight out of there, no questions asked. This isn't just a spooky story. People are claiming to be physically assaulted by a ghost. The legend has become so famous that many locals in Beijing refuse to go anywhere near the Boomer Inn, especially at night. It's considered one of the most haunted places in the entire city, a place where a dark, tragic history has left a permanent scar. The story of the vengeful chef serves as a terrifying warning, a tale of love, betrayal, and a curse that has seemingly stood the test of time. So, if you're ever in Beijing and looking for a place to stay, maybe just scroll past this one. Unless you want to be part of a real-life ghost story, I would avoid the Boomer Inn at all costs. It's a definite no from me, Chris Chandler, and the whole crew. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. All the other hotels on this list are terrifying, but this next one, this is on a whole other level of insanity. We're going to Latvia, to the Kosta Prison Hotel. And yes, you heard that right. It's a former prison that you can now pay to sleep in. This isn't a luxury hotel with a dark past. This is literally a brutal military prison that they turned into a tourist attraction. For just a few dollars, you can spend the night in a cold, barren cell, sleep on a wooden plank, and eat prison food. I don't know who came up with this idea, but they are an absolute marketing genius because people actually do it. It's like we bought a private island, but instead of paradise, it's just a terrifying prison. This place has a history that is unbelievably dark. It was built around 1900 and was used as a military prison by the Nazis and then the Soviets. Thousands of prisoners were tortured and executed within these walls. The conditions were horrific, and the suffering that took place here is almost unimaginable. The walls have soaked up over a century of pain, fear, and death. And now, they want you to sleep there. They even offer an extreme night package where you get treated like a real prisoner with guards yelling at you and everything. Why would anyone sign up for that? It's like paying someone to give you nightmares for the rest of your life. This is the last place on earth I would ever want to spend the night. As you can probably guess, this place is ridiculously haunted. It's considered one of the most haunted locations in all of Eastern Europe. Visitors and staff report classic paranormal activity on steroids. We're talking about disembodied screams echoing through the corridors, cell doors slamming shut on their own, and light bulbs unscrewing themselves from their sockets. People have seen full-bodied apparitions of soldiers and prisoners wandering the halls, and many have reported being touched, pushed, or grabbed by unseen hands. I've given away houses and cars, but I would literally pay someone to not stay here. This place is the real deal when it comes to terrifying paranormal encounters. One of the most famous ghosts is the White Lady. Legend says she was a young woman who was wrongly accused, and after being tormented by the guards, she hanged herself in one of the cells. Her spirit is now seen floating through the prison, and people often hear her sobbing or whispering for help. They say if you see her, it's a terrible omen. The hotel staff themselves will tell you the place is haunted, and they have countless stories of their own terrifying experiences. Staying at the Kosta Prison Hotel isn't a vacation, it's an endurance challenge. You're not just visiting a haunted house, you're locking yourself inside of one, and that is something I would not recommend to anyone ever. All right, for number 15, we're flying all the way to Tokyo, Japan, to a place that looks super normal on the outside, but trust me, it's anything but. This is the Kasaka Weekly Mansion, and it's basically an apartment hotel. People stay here for a week, a month, whatever, but some guests check in and get way more than they paid for. We're talking about some of the most bone-chilling ghost stories you've ever heard, coming from a place you'd least expect. It's not some old creepy castle, it's a modern building in one of the busiest cities in the world, and that's what makes it so terrifying. It proves that ghosts don't care about old architecture. They'll haunt a brand new building just as easily. Now you might be thinking, Jimmy, what makes this place so scary? Well, imagine you're alone in your room, trying to get some sleep, and suddenly you feel an icy cold hand grab your ankle. Or you wake up in the middle of the night to see a misty white figure standing at the foot of your bed just watching you. These aren't just one-off stories. We're talking about countless reports from guests over the years. People have claimed to be pushed by unseen forces. They've heard whispers right in their ear when no one is there. And some have even seen apparitions crawling on the ceiling. It's so bad that some people have literally fled the hotel in the middle of the night, leaving all their stuff behind. So what's the deal here? Why is this specific modern building a hotspot for paranormal activity? No one knows for sure, which is honestly the scariest part. There's no big dramatic backstory, no ancient burial ground, no famous murder that happened here. The most common theory is that the land itself has a dark history, but there are no official records to back that up. Other people believe the sheer number of people passing through, each with their own energies and emotions, has somehow created a psychic magnet for spirits. Think about it. In a city as dense as Tokyo, the emotional residue left behind could be powerful enough to attract something from the other side. It's the sheer volume and consistency of the reports that make the Kasaka weekly mansion one of the most terrifying places to stay in Japan. Guests have reported seeing the same ghostly woman with long dark hair in multiple rooms, especially room 111. She's been seen in mirrors, standing in doorways, or just appearing for a split second before vanishing. People also talk about a feeling of intense sadness and despair that hits them the moment they walk into certain rooms, a feeling so overwhelming it makes them want to leave immediately. If you're ever in Tokyo and looking for a cheap place to stay, maybe spend the extra money to avoid this one. It's just not worth it. Okay, next up, we're heading to Denmark to check out a literal castle. This is Dragsholm Slot, and it's over 800 years old, which means it has had a lot of time to collect ghosts. And let me tell you, this place is basically the Grand Central Station for spirits. It's considered one of the most haunted castles in all of Europe, and experts say there are at least 100 different ghosts roaming its halls. 100. That's more ghosts than I have in my crew. This place has been everything from a fortress to a prison for nobles, and now it's a luxury hotel. So you can literally pay to sleep in a room where some crazy historical drama went down centuries ago. The hotel is famous for 3 main ghosts, and they each have an insane backstory. First up is the Grey Lady. Legend says she was a former castle worker who had a really bad toothache. The bishop who lived here at the time performed some kind of primitive surgery on her, and she died. Now she wanders the castle as a friendly spirit, just checking on things. People who work there say she's a helpful ghost, like she's still on the clock hundreds of years later. It's kind of wholesome, but also super creepy to think a ghost is tidying up your room while you sleep. I would not want a ghost maid, no thank you. Then we have the Earl of Bothwell. This guy was a Scottish nobleman and the 3rd husband of Mary, Queen of Scots. He was captured and imprisoned in the castle's cellar for the last 10 years of his life, where he went completely insane before he died. Today, guests report hearing the sound of a horse and carriage on the cobblestone courtyard, even when there's nothing there. They say it's the Earl arriving at the castle, reliving his capture over and over again. Some people have even claimed to see his full-body apparition on horseback, which would be absolutely terrifying to witness. Imagine checking in, and the first thing you see is a ghost on a horse, but the most tragic ghost is the White Lady. The story goes that she was a young noblewoman who fell in love with a commoner who worked at the castle. Her father, the king, was so furious when he found out that he ordered her to be sealed alive inside a wall in the castle. For centuries, this was just a legend. But then, in the 1930s, workers were doing renovations and they knocked down a wall. And inside, they found a small skeleton wearing a white dress. I'm not making this up, they literally found her. Now, her heartbroken spirit is said to roam the castle, forever searching for her lost love. This is one of the craziest, most confirmed ghost stories I've ever heard. For number 17, we're staying in Scandinavia and heading over to Sweden to the Toftaholm Herrgård. This place looks beautiful, right? It's a gorgeous old manor house right on the edge of a lake. It looks like the perfect spot for a relaxing vacation. But this hotel is hiding a dark and seriously tragic secret. The main building dates back to the 14th century, and like many old places, it has a resident ghost. But this isn't some angry poltergeist throwing things around. This is the ghost of a young man, and his story is one of the saddest we've covered on this list. It's a classic tale of forbidden love and heartbreak that has stained this property for centuries. The legend says that a young commoner, a peasant boy named Mats, fell in love with the daughter of the baron who owned the manor. Her name was Ebba. They loved each other deeply, but of course her father, the baron, would never approve of their relationship. He wanted his daughter to marry a wealthy nobleman, not some poor local kid. So behind her back, the baron arranged for her to marry an older, richer man. When Ebba found out, she was devastated, but she had no choice but to obey her father. The wedding was planned, and the whole time, Mats had no idea what was happening. Absolutely brutal. On the morning of Ebba's wedding, Mats finally found out that the love of his life was being forced to marry someone else. Completely overcome with grief and despair, he went to the room where he and Ebba used to meet in secret, which is now room 324 in the hotel, and he took his own life. It is an unbelievably tragic end to their love story. Ever since that day, guests and staff at the hotel have reported strange occurrences, especially in and around that specific room. They say that the ghost of the young man has never left, forever trapped in the place where his heart was broken. People who stay in room 324 have reported all sorts of paranormal activity. They hear the sound of someone crying late at night when no one is there. Windows and doors have been known to open and close on their own. And some guests have woken up to see the faint apparition of a young man standing in the corner of the room, just watching them with an expression of immense sadness. His ghost is said to wander the halls of the hotel, forever waiting for his lost love, Ebba, who he can never be with. It's a heartbreaking story, and staying here means you might just get a visit from one of history's most lovesick ghosts. All right, for number 18 on our list, we're heading to Flagstaff, Arizona, to a place that's so jam-packed with ghosts, it's basically a paranormal apartment complex, and I'm giving away the penthouse suite to the first person who can survive a night here. I'm kidding. Mostly. Welcome to the Hotel Monte Vista. This place opened way back in 1927, and it's seen everything from bank robberies during Prohibition to hosting some of the biggest Hollywood stars ever, like John Wayne and Humphrey Bogart. But guess what? Some of those guests and even the staff literally never checked out. I'm telling you, this hotel has more long-term residents than a luxury retirement home. Except these residents don't pay rent, and they occasionally like to scream in the middle of the night. So, let's talk about the ghosts, because that's why we're here, right? You're not watching this for a history lesson on Arizona architecture. The Monte Vista has so many reported spirits, they've literally assigned them to specific rooms. It's like a spectral seating chart. First up, we have room 305, which is probably the most famous one. Guests in this room report seeing the ghostly figure of an old woman just sitting in the rocking chair by the window. She just rocks back and forth, staring out at the street. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, you go to get a glass of water, and boom! There's a see-through grandma chilling in your chair. I'd probably throw the entire mini fridge at it, which would be a crazy challenge. But wait, there's so much more. It's not just the rocking chair lady. Down in the hotel lounge, people say they see the ghost of a phantom bellboy. He'll knock on the doors of rooms, announce room service, and when the guests open the door, there's absolutely no one there. I challenge my crew to stay in one of these rooms and order room service every 5 minutes just to see what happens. Would the ghost get annoyed? Would he bring us a phantom pizza? These are the questions we need answers to. The hotel staff are completely used to it. They just tell people, oh yeah, that's just our bellboy. He's been trying to deliver an order since 1942. And we're not done yet, not even close. Let's talk about room 220. This room has a ghost with a seriously weird habit. He's known as the Meat Man. According to the legend, a long-term guest who was a butcher used to hang raw meat from the chandelier in this room back in the 1980s. He died in the room, and now guests and staff report the TV turning on and off by itself, and some people even feel cold hands touching them in their sleep. It's one thing to have a ghost, but a ghost that hung meat from a light fixture? That's a whole new level of creepy. I would literally pay someone $10,000 to sleep in that room with a string of sausages hanging from the chandelier just to see if it makes the ghost feel at home. Don't stay here unless you want to be part of the show. All right, for number 19, we're heading to Portland, Oregon to check into the Heathman Hotel. This place looks super fancy and luxurious, but don't let that fool you. Behind the elegant exterior, there are some seriously creepy stories that make you wonder what's really going on. I'm talking about some next-level paranormal activity. The hotel staff and guests have reported so many weird things happening that it's become a legendary haunted spot. Imagine you're just trying to enjoy your stay, and suddenly the temperature in your room drops like you're in a freezer. That's just the beginning of the crazy stuff that goes down here. It's like booking a room in a horror movie and you're the main character. The spooky action seems to be concentrated in a few specific rooms, especially those ending in the number 3, like rooms 703, 803, and 1003. It's like a paranormal magnet. Guests staying in these rooms have reported some absolutely wild experiences. They talk about seeing shadowy figures moving in the corner of their eyes only to turn and find nothing there. Others have heard unexplained noises like faint whispers or footsteps when they know for a fact they are completely alone. Some people have even felt an invisible presence in the room with them, a chilling sensation that someone is watching their every move. I'm telling you, staying in one of these rooms is like signing up for the ultimate ghost hunting challenge, and you literally can't escape. So what's the deal with these specific rooms? The hotel is super tight-lipped about it, which honestly just makes it even more mysterious and 1,000 times creepier. One popular theory is that a guest tragically took their own life by jumping from one of these rooms. The story goes that their restless spirit is now permanently attached to these floors, unable to move on. This ghost is said to be responsible for all the chaos, moving objects, creating cold spots, and generally terrifying anyone who dares to stay overnight. It's a sad story, but also, it's absolutely terrifying to think you could be sharing your room with a ghost who never checked out. Even if you manage to avoid the haunted rooms, the entire hotel has a reputation for being super active. People have reported their personal belongings being moved around or even going missing from their locked rooms, only to reappear in a completely different spot. Poltergeist activity is apparently a common occurrence here, which is just insane. Imagine your suitcase getting yeeted across the room by an invisible force. The Heathman Hotel offers a 5-star experience with a side of paranormal terror. So if you're ever in Portland and looking for a place to stay, maybe think twice before booking a room ending in 3, unless you want to be part of a real-life ghost story. And for our final, most deadly hotel, number 20, we are going to the legendary Hotel Chelsea in New York City. This place is an absolute icon, famous for housing some of the most creative artists, writers, and musicians of the 20th century. But with all that history comes a dark, dark side. I'm talking about a history packed with more suicides, drug overdoses, and straight-up murders than you can even imagine. This hotel is basically a magnet for tragedy, and it's earned its reputation as one of the most haunted places in the entire country. It's not just 1 or 2 ghosts, we're talking about a whole building full of them. This is the grand finale of haunted hotels, people. Let's start with one of its most infamous stories, the death of Nancy Spungen, the girlfriend of Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols. She was found stabbed to death in room 100 back in 1978. Sid was arrested for her murder, but he died of a drug overdose before he could even stand trial. To this day, people believe both of their ghosts haunt the hotel. Guests and staff have reported seeing a ghostly couple arguing near the elevators and in the hallways, their spectral forms locked in an eternal, tragic conflict. It's a chilling reminder of the dark events that unfolded within these walls, and it's a story that has literally cemented the Chelsea's haunted legacy. But Sid and Nancy are far from the only spirits said to roam the Chelsea. Another famous ghostly resident is the poet Dylan Thomas. He fell into a coma at the hotel in 1953 after a night of heavy drinking and later died at a nearby hospital. His spirit is said to remain in room 206 where he last stayed. People have reported feeling an immense sense of sadness and despair in that room, as if the poet's final moments are on a constant loop. It's like the very walls absorb the tragedy and now play it back for anyone who enters. It's incredibly creepy to think about sleeping in a room where such a famous figure met their end. The list of hauntings at the Hotel Chelsea just goes on and on. There are tales of a ghost named Mary, a survivor of the Titanic who lost her husband in the disaster and later took her own life in the hotel. Her spirit is often seen wandering the 5th floor, searching for him. Then there's the ghost of a writer who haunts the lobby, endlessly typing on an invisible typewriter. The sheer number of reported apparitions and unexplained events is staggering. The Hotel Chelsea isn't just a building, it's a living, breathing monument to a century of art, fame, and unbelievable tragedy, making it the ultimate destination for our list of deadly hotels. And that's a wrap on our tour of the top 20 deadliest and most haunted hotels you should probably avoid. From the terrifying history of the Hotel Cecil to the tragic tales of the Hotel Chelsea, we've seen that some places are more than just a place to sleep. They're gateways to the paranormal. Seriously, before you click that book now button for your next vacation, maybe do a quick Google search to make sure you're not checking into a real-life nightmare. You never know what kind of history is hiding behind those fancy curtains. A little research could save you from a sleepless night or, a ghostly encounter you'll never forget. Thank you all so much for watching. We spent an insane amount of time researching these haunted locations to bring you this video. And we couldn't have done it without your incredible support. Every view, like, and comment means the world to us and allows us to keep making bigger and crazier videos for you guys. We love diving into these creepy topics, and we're so glad you came along for the ride through these terrifying hotels. Seriously, you guys are the absolute best, and we appreciate every single one of you for being part of this channel and this community. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stayed in a haunted hotel? Did you experience anything creepy or unexplainable? Go down to the comments right now and share your own scary hotel stories. I'm going to be reading through every single one of them because honestly, your real-life experiences are often even more terrifying than the legends. Let's turn the comment section into a giant collection of ghost stories. Don't hold back. Tell us every spooky detail. I can't wait to see what kind of haunted adventures you guys have had. And finally, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more insane countdowns and explorations of the world's most mysterious and terrifying places, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. We have so many more mind-blowing topics planned that you won't want to miss. We're talking about diving into abandoned theme parks, exploring cursed forests, and so much more. Subscribing is the best way to make sure you're here for all of it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.